Naoya Inoue had already conquered multiple weight divisions and built a terrifying reputation long before Akhmadaliev finally got his chance to face him. But instead of quietly preparing for the opportunity of a lifetime, MJ spent months publicly calling out the Japanese superstar. He accused Inoue of avoiding him and repeatedly claimed the monster was scared to fight him. Interviews, social media posts, and public appearances became part of MJ's campaign to pressure Inoue into the ring. He constantly pushed the narrative that the undefeated champion had been ducking him for years. His team fueled the controversy even more, insisting Inoue only fought carefully selected opponents while avoiding the most dangerous challenge in the division. Meanwhile, Naoya Inoue stayed completely calm. He rarely responded to the trash talk and refused to engage in public arguments. While MJ searched for attention and headlines, the monster focused entirely on training. Inoue understood something his challenger didn't yet realize. In boxing, words mean nothing once the bell rings and fists start flying. Before targeting Inoue, MJ Akhmadaliev had already established himself as one of the strongest fighters in the super bantamweight division. He carried real power, excellent conditioning, and a dangerous amateur pedigree into professional. His victories over respected fighters like Daniel Roman and Ryosuke Iwasa proved he belonged among the elite. Akhmadaliev's aggressive style and knockout ability made him a genuine threat to anyone at 122 pounds. That success built enormous confidence within his camp. Eventually, however, his attention shifted entirely toward the biggest name in the division. He became obsessed with facing Naoya Inoue, believing the Japanese champion was vulnerable and overrated. During interviews, MJ openly mocked Inoue's nickname, refusing to rate him as a perfect fighter despite the monster's legendary accomplishments. The matchup was finally scheduled for September 2025 at the IG Arena in Japan, instantly becoming one of the most anticipated boxing events of the year. Naoya Inoue entered the fight holding the WBC, WBA, IBF, and IBO Super Bantamweight Championships while remaining undefeated as a professional. Akhmadaliev, despite one loss on his record, still carried enormous confidence because of his recent performances. He had stopped several opponents in dominant fashion and believed his momentum would continue against the monster. More importantly, MJ genuinely thought Inoue could finally be hurt and defeated. Inoue's previous fights against Luis Neri and Ramon Cardenas had changed perceptions around him. For the first time in his career, the monster had been dropped by opponents. Although Inoue recovered to win both fights, those knockdowns gave Akhmadaliev hope that the champion was no longer invincible. MJ began studying those moments obsessively. He even worked alongside coaches connected to fighters who had previously troubled Inoue, hoping they could expose weaknesses nobody else had successfully exploited before. The confidence inside his camp continued growing rapidly before fight night. As fight week arrived, the contrast between both fighters became impossible to ignore. Akhmadaliev entered every interview aggressively, speaking with total certainty that Inoue had avoided him for years because of fear. He insisted the Japanese superstar would finally break once he felt MJ's power. Inoue, on the other hand, barely reacted publicly. He appeared calm, focused, and emotionally detached from the noise surrounding the event. Even during the face-offs, the monster showed no anger or frustration despite the endless accusations thrown at him. To many observers, MJ looked hungry and fearless. But others noticed something different in Inoue's silence. The opening rounds immediately revealed the massive challenge Akhmadaliev was facing. Inoue's speed looked almost unreal compared to MJ's reactions. The monster's jab snapped through the challenger's guard repeatedly, landing before Akhmadaliev could even respond properly. Every time MJ tried probing forward, he was met with sharp counters and brutal body shots. Although Akhmadaliev entered believing his physical strength would intimidate Inoue, the champion never backed away. Instead, he calmly controlled the center of the ring and dictated the pace from the very beginning. MJ occasionally landed solid punches, but each success came at a heavy cost because Inoue answered instantly with combinations of his own. Commentators quickly noticed how much faster Inoue's offense was compared to the challenger's timing. Akhmadaliev tried adjusting his rhythm and finding openings, yet the monster consistently stayed one step ahead. What made things worse for MJ was the psychological pressure. The fighter who claimed Inoue feared him was now realizing the champion looked completely comfortable standing directly in front of him without hesitation or concern. By the third and fourth rounds, Akhmadaliev began discovering how exhausting it was trying to close distance against someone as sharp and disciplined as Naoya Inoue. The challenger leaned forward aggressively at times, attempting to trap the monster near exchanges, but Inoue's counters punished every mistake instantly. Straight right hands repeatedly split Akhmadaliv's defense while devastating body shots slowly drained his energy. MJ still had moments where he landed respectable punches, but he could never sustain momentum because Inoue disrupted his rhythm almost immediately afterward. Analysts pointed out how carefully the champion protected himself compared to previous fights. Round 5 finally gave Akhmadaliv some hope. For brief moments, he managed to land several clean punches and force Inoue into more competitive exchanges. The challenger even waved the monster forward confidently, trying to turn the fight into a physical war. It became his strongest round so far because he stopped waiting and began taking risks offensively. But even during those moments, Inoue remained terrifyingly dangerous. Every successful combination from MJ was answered with sharp counters, vicious hooks, and relentless body attacks. The monster's left hook repeatedly snapped Akhmadaliv's head backward while straight rights hammered into his ribs. What frustrated MJ most was the fact that Inoue never looked rattled emotionally. No matter what landed, the champion calmly reset and continued controlling the action. The pace of the fight also began increasing significantly. Akhmadaliv's corner urged him to stay aggressive and force exchanges, understanding he was already falling behind badly on the scorecards. Yet fighting more aggressively against Naoya Inoue came with enormous danger, and the challenger was slowly beginning to feel the consequences physically. As the championship rounds approached, the fight became increasingly one-sided. Akhmadaliv continued showing toughness and determination, but his confidence from earlier interviews had started disappearing completely. Inoue's body shots were now having a visible effect. MJ frequently pulled backward after absorbing punches downstairs, trying desperately to create space and recover. Blood appeared around his face as the monster's combinations became more accurate and damaging. Even when Akhmadaliv landed something meaningful, Inoue responded instantly with sharper and cleaner counters. The challenger's body language told the story clearly. The man who once claimed the champion feared him now looked mentally exhausted from trying to solve the impossible puzzle standing in front of him. By the final rounds, Akhmadaliv's attitude had completely transformed compared to the arrogant confidence he carried before the fight. Earlier in the build-up, he talked as though Inoue had avoided him out of fear. Now, however, survival and respect had become far more important than trash talk. Desperation filled MJ's corner as trainers begged him to chase a knockout because it was the only possible path left toward victory. Yet even while needing something dramatic, Akhmadaliv remained cautious because the punishment from Inoue had become overwhelming. The monster continued landing crisp right hands, violent hooks, and devastating shots to the body whenever openings appeared. Despite everything, MJ showed incredible courage by continuing to fight back. Late in the contest, he finally connected with a powerful shot that briefly snapped Inoue's head backward and excited the crowd. But the champion immediately adjusted, defended intelligently, and refused to give the challenger another opportunity. The moment perfectly summarized the entire fight. Akhmadaliv had moments, but Inoue always stayed one step ahead. When the final bell sounded, there was no real doubt about the outcome. Naoya Inoue had once again proven why he remains one of boxing's pound-for-pound kings. Akhmadaliv entered the fight believing he could expose weaknesses, bully the champion physically, and finally humble the monster. Instead, he learned the same painful lesson so many others had already discovered before him. Trash talk, confidence, and power alone are not enough against a fighter operating at Inoue's level. Throughout 12 brutal rounds, the Japanese superstar displayed elite speed, intelligence, composure, timing, defense, and devastating offensive precision. Even when Akhmadaliv found occasional success, Inoue adapted instantly and regained control.